What up, folks? What's going on? Welcome to the Spun Today Podcast, the podcast that is anchored in writing, but unlimited in scope. I'm your host, Tony Ortiz, and I appreciate you listening. This is episode 167 of the Spun Today Podcast. And in this episode, my wife and I speak about the experience of welcoming our second-born child home. Shout out to baby Grayson. We speak about the pregnancy, delivery, recovery, leaving the hospital during COVID times, and the very scary experience that we had of my wife having to be readmitted into the hospital postpartum. Literally the same day we were discharged from the hospital, that night, she had to be readmitted, where she lasted 5 additional days. We get into all that in sharing our experience with you fine folks, and much, much more. This is the first episode that I'm recording again in a while, because the past month or so worth of podcast I pre-recorded in anticipation to my wife having the baby and, being on paternity leave and all the craziness that comes along with that. But it definitely feels good to be back at it. But yeah, it's been pretty crazy, pretty hectic. Our son Grayson is doing great. He doesn't sleep at night though, like most newborns don't, being that you have to feed them every 2 hours. But on top of that, he's like a very uncomfortable sleeper when he does sleep, because he has like acid reflux, and he's constantly crying and awake, and needless to say, none of us are getting much sleep. But that comes with the territory, right? The first 6 weeks or so, they estimate. Then it starts getting a little bit easier in terms of spacing out the feedings. It doesn't have to be as frequent as every 2 hours, which with him, by the way, it's more like every hour to hour and a half, because the kid can eat. But my other son, Aiden, has been doing great. He's turned 2 years old this July, and, we were worried about him being really jealous and resentful of the baby like some siblings can be, but, thankfully he hasn't been that bad at all. He's been, really good. I'm really proud of him, actually. He tries to help out with the baby, sometimes a little bit too much, trying to pick him up or carry him, which he can't obviously do, or, tries to hold his bottle, which is fine sometimes, unless he's jamming it in the baby's face. And he's constantly running to the baby, if he hears him cry or anything like that. And he's being a really attentive older brother, which as a parent is dope to see. In terms of anxiety for me, I don't know if you all remember, if you've been listening to the show for a while, maybe you'll know. If not, if you want to revisit episode, I believe 104 of the podcast, I did a welcome baby Aiden episode, and told you guys about a lot of the stuff that I went through with not sleeping, being too paranoid to sleep, in fear of SIDS or something happening to the baby while I was knocked out. My wife and I were literally taking shifts and just, watching the baby 24 hours even while he slept. And when doing so, with that, you doze off sometimes. And my wife dozed off. I woke up and noticed that she was sleeping. So then after that, I doubled down on the, not even taking shifts. I just wanted to stay up 24/7. I had what was deemed to be, I went to a sleep doctor and shit afterwards. And I think they said something along the lines of lack of sleep induced panic attack or something like that. But basically what happened to me physically was I woke up after dozing off and I couldn't breathe. And it was 30 seconds of I just couldn't suck air in. And I stood up on the bed, and it was scary as shit. But this time around with the baby, it's been a lot less of that. So I'm not as afraid to sleep. We have a bit more experience, obviously, after having our first son. So even though Grayson is a worse sleeper, I would say, it's less, the whole experience is less anxiety driven. Also, what's been helping a lot, which we didn't mention during recording the episode, but my wife, to surprise me, actually purchased, it's called an Owlet Care. It's this baby sock that monitors, it's kind of like a Fitbit kind of sock thing that monitors the baby's oxygen levels and his sleeping patterns and his heartbeat. It has a little base, and there's also an app on your phone, so you can constantly monitor it. via the phone. And if the baby, God forbid, stops breathing or is choking or something like that, his heart rate, gets elevated past certain benchmarks, then like your phone will start ringing, the bass will start ringing, so it'll like wake you up if you are asleep. Like that in itself, even though my wife and I are still like we're taking shifts in terms of watching the baby, and we have them separated in different rooms from Aiden, because the baby being up and crying all the time then wakes up Aiden, and then he doesn't sleep, and then he gets cranky, so we have them separated right now. But just having the ability of having that sock and constantly like monitored like that it's provided so much peace of mind. It's really been a saving grace. So babe, I know you bought it for me mainly because of like everything we went through with Aiden, so thank you for that. I really appreciate it, and it's something I definitely recommend to folks. And now I know when we had Aiden, someone told us about it, but the thing costs like $300 or $400, and we were like, all right, it's not that serious. Like we're not gonna like spend that much on this little gadget thing. And this time around, my wife purchased it secondhand, and it was from someone that she said she used it for like 3 months, because it's one of those things, it's like when the baby's a newborn and can't really move, and God forbid chokes because he can't move, and or something like that. But they outgrow it eventually, even though you could continue using it. Like they have like bigger sizes of the sock and the monitor and stuff like that you can continue using with the baby as he grows older. But most people just use it for a handful of months in the beginning, so it's like practically brand new. But because it was secondhand, she was able to get like a great deal on it for like $100 or something like that. So I definitely recommend it, especially if you folks can find a deal like that. But yeah, folks, here is, without further ado, a conversation with my wife, my beautiful, strong, caring, extremely impressive wife, and our experience with welcoming home baby Grayson. But first, before we jump in, here is a very, very quick way that you can help support this show. If you do any shopping on Amazon, like most of the world, I ask that you do so by clicking on any of the Amazon banners on my website. This will take you to Amazon, where you can do your shopping like you normally do. It will not cost you anything extra, but I will get credit for driving traffic to their website. Speaking of Amazon, they fulfill a bunch of the merch that I have available. If you go to spuntoday.com/support, you're going to find a brand new merch section where you'll find the iconic Podcasts vs. Anybody super soft premium cotton t-shirt. You'll also find the legendary Spun Today Podcast tee, which is in the style of the New York City plastic thank you bags logo. For my fellow Dominicans out there, I have a dope Dominican Escudo t-shirt. You know where the Lacoste or Polo shirts have their little logo? Picture that, but instead a Dominican Escudo. All available now in a variety of different colors for men and women in all sizes. In the Spun Today merch section, which again is at spuntoday.com/support, you'll also find a bunch of other t-shirt designs, long sleeve t-shirts, short sleeve t-shirts, color changing coffee mugs, and much, much more. Check out all the merch at spuntoday.com/support. Alrighty, so you went through some shit. I told you we were gonna jump right into it. All right, so I wanna get into obviously everything you went through after giving birth to our new baby boy Grayson, but I also want to go over like the beforehand and like stuff like that. So I remember with Aiden, for example, our first son, our 2-year-old, who's doing great, by the way. He's like, I'm really proud of him. He's being a great big brother. He's like always like running to the baby when he hears him cry, and he's not being too jealous or anything like that, and always trying to help. So that's awesome. But I remember with him, with his pregnancy, you and I went to the hospital for like our last scheduled visit for like the regular, like the weekly visits at that point. And it was like the 40-week sonogram scan or whatever. They told us there well, they scared the shit out of us. The lady doing the sonogram, she was like, "Is this baby breached?" And we didn't know what the hell breach meant. And she's like asking out loud, but kind of like talking to herself. And we're like, "What the fuck does that mean? Is something wrong?" And then
No, but that wasn't for that appointment.
yeah, it was.
No, it was the one before that. For the last appointment, she told us that I didn't have a lot of amniotic fluid.
I thought it was that was the same.
So I needed to get induced. No, it's a different appointment.
Okay, well, I remember it being the same appointment where she said that is the baby breach, and also said that it was like low amniotic fluid, but I'm probably wrong. So anyway, she tells us that there's low amniotic fluid, and then from that appointment, they like rushed us to the hospital, basically told us to go check in to go have the baby. And it was like an unexpected thing, obviously. But we were kind of like prepared for it because we already had our bag packed, like the hospital bag and like all our stuff, just in case, because we knew, you know, we had like a few days left before having to.
Well, my due date was on the 9th, and I had the baby on the 7th. So
yeah,
we
so
knew it was coming.
Before, yeah. And then, but it was kind of like hectic, and we had to like go over and stuff like that. With Grayson, it was a bit more, or not a bit more. It was like completely more like scheduled, because now like with COVID and stuff like that going on, they gave the option of like voluntarily inducing the baby, like in advance, like scheduling
I was
an
already
induction.
induced the first pregnancy.
Oh, okay, that's why
they allow me to do it for the second one.
And okay, so since you were induced for the first time, they allow you to get induced for the second time, and that allowed us to like schedule it in advance. So like,
which I was very happy about.
Yeah, because you were already like super uncomfortable, right? Like towards the end of the pregnancy.
Oh yeah, and I wanted it to be scheduled and have like a date, not having to wait until I had contractions and being home, and then having to go to the city for the hospital. That's like a little.
Yeah, from Queens to Manhattan.
That made me a little anxious.
I remember even with Aiden too, you were like nervous that something would happen. I would be at work, and then you would have to like rush to the hospital by yourself and stuff like that.
I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to take a cab, and I might have the baby in
the cab.
In the
like
cab.
In the movies and shit.
Oh my God, that was like too scary to think of.
Yeah, so when they gave us that option, you obviously like jumped on it, and
yeah.
that was like a good thing. And another benefit of that is that since we were scheduled and the hospital was expecting us, like we had our like a private room that we went to directly, or like not the private room, but the delivery room that we went to directly.
But it was way nicer.
Yeah,
than
super nicer
than the first time.
And also like with the first time, since we weren't expected and scheduled, and they also had like a busy like day or weekend or whatever of deliveries at that time, like they literally put us in like a closet that had.
It was really a closet.
Yeah, like literally a closet that had a bed in it. And then from there, once space opened up, then they were able to like move us to like a delivery room and stuff like that. But with Grayson, we went straight to the delivery room. Everything was like, scheduled and regimented and comfortable. From there, I remember, well, first of all, tell me, how was this pregnancy different from Aiden? I know you tenía like malestar and stuff like that. Like it was like bothering you a lot more.
Well, obviously it's going to be different. Different experiences. But for this one, it was like I felt sick like more often.
Like the usual, like the morning sickness from like the first trimester, you felt it like.
Yeah, it was
throughout.
Yeah, it was not throughout, but in the beginning it was harder. I felt more morning sickness. It was like stronger, and so I think and I felt that the baby was bigger. So it was like hard from the beginning, on.
And even when he started moving, like in your stomach, we could see his like arms and legs
so
poking
painful.
out. That shit was like aliens.
And in the beginning, I remember when I started bleeding. I bled once, and that was scary because we didn't know if it was like normal or what was gonna happen. But I think it was because I had the vaginal ultrasound.
Mm-hmm. Like a day or two before, right?
Yeah. So I was bleeding because of that, which was weird because the first pregnancy, the first ultrasound was,
the vaginal one.
The vaginal one, and that's it. But this one, I guess they thought they were gonna get the information better that way, and they just did it vaginally, which was whatever. It's uncomfortable anyways to do ultrasounds.
True.
Because they push a lot and it's not pleasant.
No.
The only good thing is that you get to see the baby
And hear the heartbeat and stuff.
Yeah. And you wait so long to see the baby, so
Yeah.
that's the good thing about it. But it's definitely uncomfortable. It's not that pleasant, especially when you get bigger, because they push like the whatever,
the little camera thing,
the wand
jelly.
thing.
Yeah.
They push it like really deep.
So from
in
my
your
perspective,
stomach.
it's like all the good stuff of getting to see the baby on the screen and
Yeah.
pictures and hearing the heartbeat and
But for us
none of the
mamas,
bad stuff.
it's not easy. Like it's definitely like you feel like you're being probed and
And like prodded and
yeah, it's
sucks.
that's pregnancy.
Yeah.
Really.
So then after we are in the delivery room, which is again really nice, we're comfortable. I remember
I was ready.
Yeah, you were ready. you wanted to give birth right away.
Yeah, 39 weeks.
They did the like balloon thing, right? That was the first thing that they did?
No, they did
first they give you
the pill. They inserted a pill
to like begin the induction process or like to soften it or something.
It's like
Soften the
to soften the cervix or to thin it out and to start like contractions. And they usually do. It's not like a set. Like you do the pill first and then the balloon. You do whatever
Okay.
you want first. But I was so apprehensive of the balloon because the first time it was so painful.
Yeah. I remember the first time when we were in that little tiny closet room with Aiden, they tried the balloon thing to like induce her.
Insert a balloon to open the cervix more, but my cervix was long, so they couldn't really insert it properly.
And it hurt like hell.
And I literally felt, I was like, I think this is how it feels when people get raped. I'm not saying that I'm like saying whatever, but
no, I remember
it
like
was
you started
traumatizing.
crying, you screamed.
Yeah.
I was like, yo, what the fuck? I think
I
I
was
even told him to stop.
And like when I saw her hand coming out with blood and everything, I was like, oh my God. It was really painful. It was really, really painful.
So like traumatizing, obviously. So this time around, when they were like, "Do you want the balloon or the pill?" You're like, "Give me the pill first."
Yeah, like I was like, no, I don't want the balloon. Just give me the pill. Just insert the pill and let's see what happens.
Yeah.
I was open minded, but I was still like, I don't think I'm gonna do the balloon.
And I kept telling like every doctor, every nurse, like over and over the story again of how traumatizing like the first time was to like try to like set it in.
For reliving it a million times.
Yeah.
But I just didn't want to do it in the beginning because I just wanted to try and see if with the pill would be enough.
True. But it wasn't, unfortunately.
Well, it would have been, but it would taken the process like longer.
Oh, right.
Because the balloon, like it opens you like 4 centimeters more and it speeds up the process. And it helps the pill do its thing, So I was like, maybe I should just try it. Maybe this time around it won't be that bad. And the nurse was being really like supportive. She was like, you don't have to do it, but it will help you, if you want to try it. And if it hurts, then they will stop, being very supportive of whatever, my decision.
Yeah.
So I was like, fine, let's try it. And if it hurts, I'll just scream and they probably stop. So that's what we did. And they inserted it. It wasn't that bad. Thank God.
And it was quick too, right?
Yeah, and I just told them to like prop me up and what is it?
Like a pillow or
no, it was like the pee thing.
Oh, the thing that you pee in, the whatever, that like silver thing.
The bedpan.
Bedpan, there you go.
Yeah. So they just propped me up on the bedpan and
because we found out from the first time after they propped you up.
Yeah, it was
with
easier
Aiden,
to do it.
Then it worked, but the first time that's when you felt like all the pain and shit like that.
So I just told them just try it that way and hopefully it worked, which it did. And it didn't hurt that much.
And they propped you up, like they put that like on your butt to like prop you up, right?
Oh my God, I was praying. I was like, oh my God, please, please, I don't want it to hurt. And it was hurting when they was checking me. Like, oh my God. Like I didn't even want to think about that, but yeah, it was definitely like more painful. Like I was feeling things more this time.
Yeah.
And I guess it's because you know what's
expected. You start, like,
what you're gonna
anticipating it.
feel. You know how it's gonna feel when they check you and they do all that stuff. So you're more aware of your body and what's going on. Because when you don't know the first time, you don't know what you're gonna feel. So you're like, whatever. You're like,
more like go with the flow.
Yeah.
And then, so the balloon, after they inserted that, helped. That went smoothly. Then after that, then they do another pill, right? The Pitocin thing?
No, that's the infusion. It's like a IV.
Oh, okay.
The Pitocin is in the IV.
Okay.
But they inserted the balloon, and it they fill it up with water, and that opens up the cervix. Usually it does 3 to 4 centimeters right away, and then it deflates, or no, it doesn't deflate. It just stays like that. But when your cervix opens, it pops out.
Pops the balloon out.
Yeah,
it
it pops out the balloon.
Yeah.
Like the inflated balloon, it pops out because your cervix is open, so
it pushes it out.
Yeah. So the nurse just does it like a little tug, and it pops out.
Nice.
It's really gross. But whatever. It helps you dilate more, and hopefully you get to 10
get
centimeters
your body
right away.
It tells your body, all right, it's go time. Start the process.
So you start feeling contractions. You feel pressure. It feels like cramping, like period pain. For us ladies, we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
The guys they have no idea. But it feels like, period cramps, like the beginning stages, the first few days. That's how it feels like. And that's how, contractions feel. They just feel really intense. Cramping, period cramps.
After that, so we went into the hospital on Thursday, right? October 15th.
Mm-hmm.
And we started this whole process. Then, by that time, because we checked in at 10 in the morning, but by the time we got to the room and stuff like that, it was a few hours later.
Yeah, everything started they inserted the pill at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
So
then wait a few hours, and then the balloon, and then wait a few hours.
Wait an hour before they check you. And the nurse was doing all the admitting things and asking a whole bunch of questions.
Yeah.
Which gets your mind off of it.
True.
Really. And after they insert the balloon, they wait 4 hours to check you again and
to see how far along you are.
Yeah. So, and the nurse, she said that, she took the balloon out in an hour, which was really fast.
And she said you were already at 5 centimeters or something like that at that point.
No, I was in 4 centimeters. And I was feeling a little contractions there, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was
Did you get the epidural already at that point? I don't remember.
No, the epidural was way
towards
after.
the end, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And all right, so then at that point, then after a few hours and stuff like that, the next thing I remember is you getting really cold and shivering, to the point that I had to put 3 blankets on you. I put a sweater on you.
And it still wasn't enough.
And you were still freezing your ass off.
Yeah.
And that just came out of nowhere, right?
Yeah, I just felt really cold, debilitating cold. Oh my God, it was horrible. I couldn't stop shaking. My teeth were hurting because I was shivering.
It was chattering or whatever.
It was painful, and no matter how much stuff you put on top of me, I was still cold.
And then the room was cold as is, but then we mentioned it to the nurses. And I think they said that's your body transitioning or some shit, getting ready.
Yeah, it was my body preparing myself for delivery.
Yeah, and the room even to me, it was cold. So I was it kind of makes sense, I guess. But
and I kept on wanting more water. So even though I was cold, freezing, I wanted cold water.
Yeah.
Remember I drank so much water?
Yeah, hell yeah.
The nurse said that my pee was so clear.
Yeah, she said that's awesome.
She never seen that.
She was completely hydrated.
Clear. But I was so thirsty. I wanted so much water. I remember that.
Yeah. And then at some point, that fever cold went away, right?
Yeah. It got better. And then I think towards the And the nurse kept telling me, do you feel contractions? Do you feel contractions? And I did feel them, but I just didn't want to say, yeah. And what if it wasn't contractions and I was just feeling cramping or whatever?
Yeah.
I just, I wanted to be sure, which is stupid. Just say, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Who cares if it's not real contractions? But you do stupid things.
Especially, I would imagine, like, when you're just,
I don't know. I just don't want the nurse to be like, oh, what is she talking about? She's not even having contractions. I just didn't want them to tell me that I wasn't having contractions and I was feeling cramping. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So that means that, like, I wasn't dilating and whatever, but I was being induced. So I should feel something.
Yeah,
if I had the balloon and the pill inserted or whatever.
Plus, it's like one of those things. It's not like right and wrong answer. You know what I mean? It's like whatever. I thought all right. I thought
she was like gonna laugh at me. I don't know what. What did I think?
But that's what I'm saying. Like, you're probably not even thinking straight or clearly. Yeah. Like, at that point, like, your body going through
whatever.
all that shit.
Like, yeah, but I was feeling something. I just didn't know if it was contractions or not.
Then the next steps after that are the epidural eventually, right? Like, when you started feeling contractions.
Then I started feeling like it was around like 6 or something, right? Like 6, 7.
At night?
Oh, yeah, like 7, 8. I think because you were taking the class, remember?
Oh, right.
So I think it was around like 8, maybe. I started feeling more pressure and it was getting uncomfortable. So I was like, maybe I should just get the epidural now.
Oh, right, because they said, let us know when you want the epidural, but, like, wait till,
No, they didn't say, they never said to wait. Just let us know when you want the epidural. But since I didn't know if I was like, I just wanted to wait. I don't know why I wanted to wait.
I think
get the epidural.
Because I had the same understanding also. I thought it was like, wait more towards the end so it could like last more or like last throughout the whole shit or something throughout the whole birth. But it's gonna last.
I don't know. I guess I was waiting until, since it's a process to get the epidural. I just wanted to feel the contractions, I guess, to then get the epidural.
True.
Like to know that.
Because then after that, like, you don't really feel them.
Yeah, because you don't feel whatever. I don't know why I was waiting. Because it wasn't that bad, I guess, and I needed. I was like, okay, I guess I could wait, whatever.
Yeah.
But then it got to a point that it was getting painful and like a little uncomfortable, and I was feeling more. And I'm not fond of pain.
True.
So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna get it. I'm just gonna get the epidural or whatever. And this time around, it was like way painful to get the epidural. And I was so scared that it wasn't going to work because I've heard so many stories like, oh, the epidural didn't work. Or I was like, oh, my God, I hope that's not the case for me. I hope I don't feel anything. And the epidural works. And I was getting scared when they were doing the epidural because I was feeling... Well, the anesthesiologist was like, oh, you're going to feel a pinch. And I felt that pinch like, oh, my God.
Like really badly, right?
Oh, and that, like, you feel the liquid going into your spine. It's not pleasant at all. Yeah, because
for the folks listening that might not know, like, the epidural is like picture an IV, but that goes into your back, into your spine.
Yeah, it's like a tube. Yeah. They insert into your spine or something, and it, like, delivers the medication directly to your spine.
And the purpose of it is to
the nerve or whatever.
Numb you to the point where you don't feel as much pain of the contractions and the birth.
No, you don't feel anything in the beginning.
Yeah.
But then towards the end, it stops working.
It starts wearing off.
Yeah, it starts wearing off because you need to feel, to push and...
True.
I don't know how they do it, but that's how it is. Or the contractions get so intense that at the end you don't feel the epidural as much. I guess that's how it is, but...
Yeah. Then after that, it was another probably like few hours, right? Because after that, they like continue to check you to make sure you're continuing to dilate, and it's time to like begin pushing and stuff like that after you're like at 10 centimeters, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, after you're 9 centimeters, then they, like the nurse or the doctor says, okay, we're going to top you off with the epidural, like give you the last dosage to like, so you could feel okay, like comfortable enough, but you could still feel the contractions. But you still feel everything anyways. So.
Yeah.
But I guess that's just like the end, the last dosage of the epidural you could get.
True.
So you could start the process of pushing.
And did you get the epidural after your water broke or before?
No, I got it before.
Before, right? Because then I remember your water broke. I think I was sleeping, and you woke me up.
No, yeah, you were sleeping.
And it was like
it's 2:45
something
or
in the morning.
2:25, something like that.
Yeah, I wrote it down on my phone. It was like 2 something in the morning.
I was watching TikTok
You were
on
on
my
TikTok,
phone.
yeah.
And I had my legs crossed, like
crisscross applesauce.
like meditation style.
Yeah.
But not that tight, but it was like kind of crossed, or one leg crossed, and it oh my god, it was like a balloon, a water balloon is in your cooch, and and it just pops. It's like seriously like that, like poop.
And you just felt it go all over the bed.
Yeah, I was like, definitely, that's my water break. It was so funny. And I was like,
because you didn't experience that with Aiden.
No, with Aiden, they actually ruptured my water, so
like
or they broke my
shit.
broke my water, so so it just felt like a river with Aiden, but with it's like a water balloon popped.
That's crazy.
And it was crazy. It was kind of nice to feel it.
Yeah, to like experience it, right? I guess.
Yeah.
And then we told the nurses, whatever, they came to check.
Yeah, then I called the nurse, and she was like, "Oh yeah, that's what it is." And she cleaned me up, and she was like, "Well, now the contractions are gonna get stronger." And but I wasn't feeling anything because of the epidural, which is amazing.
No.
If it works, but it worked for me both times.
Nice.
It was nice.
Then after that was around 2 something in the morning.
Mm-hmm. And I thought that right away I was gonna have the baby.
Yeah, well, which wasn't the case.
Yeah.
It was still another
I was like, I bet you at 3:00 I'll have the baby.
Yeah. Then 3 came, then 4 came, then 5 came, and
I was starting to feel the contractions, like on and off, and I had to breathe, to get through them and stuff. I guess that's how you know that you're getting closer.
Yeah.
When even with the epidural, you still feel the contractions, and you have to like stop talking. And
imagine how bad it is if you didn't have an epidural at all.
Oh no,
I'm picturing that
couldn't do that.
More intense, and the epidural is like holding it off. But then it gets to a point where the epidural can't hold off like the sensation of the pain anymore, and then that's when you start feeling it. Like
I give them good kudos. The people the women that do that. But I couldn't do it, especially because there is something that you could take, which is the epidural. And I don't know. But I opted for it, so I'm grateful for it. So
yeah. And let's see. So then
I was waiting. The nurse kept telling me, do you feel the sensation to poop? Because that means that you need to start pushing.
Yeah, they're trying to gauge like when you should start pushing.
So I felt pressure, but I was like waiting until the end. I don't know why I kept waiting for everything, but
well, this one makes sense because you explained it to me. Because with Aiden, you felt like you were like pushing for like a really long time, which you were.
Yeah, but it was because it was my first pregnancy.
Yeah.
And I wasn't like my hips weren't as open. True. They say that your second delivery is usually faster because you're already like your hips are open.
So then this time you wanted to wait as much as you could before
I just didn't want to push
before
for
beginning the process of pushing.
I had that in my brain. I didn't want to push for long. So
then eventually the doctor came and like
they kept saying, get everybody ready, blah blah blah. Get the doctor. So I had to wait for the doctor anyways. But at the end, I was like feeling so much pressure. It was like when you're constipated, like a TMI, but when you're constipated and you're about to poop.
Everybody can relate.
And you can't hold it anymore. You just have to poop. Like, you feel it right there. That's how it feels.
And it was pretty crazy because, like, from my perspective, because I'm there, and, similar to with Aiden's pregnancy, like, I was, like, hands-on. Like, I was, like, holding a leg, and the nurse was holding the other leg and stuff like that. We did the exact same thing this time. And at least with Aiden, since you like got to the point and you were ready to start pushing, and they had time to like prep everything, set up the table, and the doctor, takes all the sterilized equipment out and like stuff like that, and sets up his own table, and the nurse is doing other stuff and stuff like that. With this pregnancy with Grayson's, like the doctor came in, yeah, you were like at the end of the process, ready to push, and like you said, you were like you couldn't hold it anymore, and the doctor was like setting up. I feel like he was like still setting up his like sterilized equipment and stuff, almost done, but like still, you know, gearing up to like, all right, now start pushing, and you and the nurse actually just start pushing. Because normally like you push a few times, like from what we saw with Aiden, and you know it takes a while, but after you push the first time, you went through like that first contraction, then the doctor was almost done setting up, then the second time came for the second contraction, and you started pushing again, and his head popped out. Grayson's head popped out right away, and I was like,
well, crowning, right?
Yeah.
It was crowning.
Yeah. Like it didn't pop out completely, but I
Like
saw like half of the top of his head, and I was like, oh shit, that's his head. And the doctor like turned around kind of, and then I saw him like speed up a bit, like what he was doing, and it was just like, all right, it's go time. And then you did, I think, just one more push after that.
I think I only pushed 5 times. Really.
Came right out. Like literally the entire process took 5 minutes of pushing.
Yeah, because you have to wait until you have a contraction to start pushing.
Exactly.
Oh my god, and like it was hard. It was like, thank God it was only 5 minutes because it was so painful.
It hurt a lot more pushing this time than with Aiden,
yes.
right? Even though
with
Aiden
I didn't like, I was
it.
pushing, but it wasn't like painful or anything. It's just, you know, I needed to push. Like I felt that I needed to push to stop the contractions from hurting. But with Grayson, it was like so painful to push. I was like, oh my god, I can't do this for long. Like, because I thought I was gonna push like for an hour. I was gonna have to push for an hour. I was like, oh my god, I gotta push this so hard so it could come out. Like whatever it is inside me has to come out. But I felt the head. Like it's like an out of body experience.
Yeah. That's
how it feels. Because I close my eyes, because when I'm scared, I close my eyes to, like, I guess not to see what's going on.
Yeah.
It makes it less scary. And I said to myself that I was gonna open my eyes to see what's going on, because it might be like, you know, we might not have any more kids or whatever. And I was like, I need to see what's going on, but I didn't. I was too scared, so I was just with my eyes closed, and I was like, I'm just gonna push as hard as I can. Oh Lord.
Oh, you know what that reminds me of? There was a point in time, like while you were like really cold and stuff like that, and I remember throughout the whole night there was a mime,
fruit fly.
A fruit fly, like in the room. There was 2 of them, and then I killed one, which I felt bad about afterwards. I don't know why, but I killed one.
And it wasn't even bothering us.
No, it wasn't.
It was just like flying, but whatever.
And then there was still another one around. And I remember you saying at one point, like during the night, like that you missed your mom, or you were like thinking about your mom.
Oh yeah, that was before I started pushing.
Yeah, and you saying that you wish she was there, and I told you that she is. And for some reason, se me metió in my mind that mime was like your mom, which I don't know.
That's a weird thing to come back as.
Yeah, I don't know, because I was like thinking of the 2 things in my head, and
well, maybe,
and whatever. It was like flying around, and
then it stayed like in the back wall.
It stayed like right before you got ready to start pushing and stuff like that. The fruit fly flew to the back of the bed, like the wall behind the bed, and it literally stayed there the entire time that you were pushing. I even wound up taking a picture of it because I was like still thinking, you know, that's Zoila's mom or something, like reincarnated, and she's coming like to watch her, like protect her and stuff. After you gave birth and stuff like that, it was still there, and then eventually like it wound up flying away like afterwards.
Well, thank God I didn't go into.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my God.
And
into something, you know.
Yeah.
I'm just not gonna say.
And then Grayson was born.
Then I heard like after you have the baby, you feel like emptiness, like a little emptiness.
Like in your stomach?
Yeah, like when you finish pooping,
Yeah.
you feel like a little relief, but it's still sore. That's how it feels. And like you feel it popping out, and he started crying right away. And he cried like really strong too.
Yeah.
Really loud. And then I opened my eyes right there.
And they asked me if I wanted to cut the umbilical cord. I said, of course, because I did that with Aiden. And I cut it perfectly again.
Yeah, they
Kudos
put it.
to myself.
Okay, whatever. Yeah, I just like delivered a 8-pound baby. Yeah, kudos to you for cutting an umbilical cord perfectly.
Yeah, that
yeah,
thing is slippery. Some
good
people
job.
fuck it up with the scissor.
Oh my god. Like, okay, good for you. And then I delivered the placenta.
Oh yeah.
Oh, but you cut the umbilical cord perfectly. Good job. But then they put the baby on top of me to do skin to skin.
He was like really really like breathing like raspy. Like
Yeah, he was like what is it called? Congested.
Yeah,
He
really
was
congested.
Really congested. So he was like breathing like, you know, when you have a cold and stuff.
And they explained to us that, you know, since like when you push a baby out normally, like part of what your body does is like kind of like squeeze the amniotic fluid
Out of
from
the baby.
like out of the baby, because you know he's like the walls of the vagina and stuff like that are, and the cervix I guess are like
You know,
squeezing the
yeah.
baby, so well like water comes out during that process. But since he came out so quickly, he had like extra amniotic fluid like built up and stuff like that, so he was like really congested.
Yeah, and his head wasn't like deformed or anything or egg shaped.
Yeah,
It was like perfectly round.
right away, because it didn't go through like that stress
Yeah.
of like being squozen out.
And with the first pregnancy, I didn't feel the delivery of the placenta. I
And
just
with this one you did?
they didn't even tell me anything. I just didn't feel that. But with the second one, the doctor was like, "Oh, we gotta take the placenta out. So just give a good push." And he pushed on my stomach, and I felt like
I saw it come out, and it came out like so like whole, like and he even mentioned
The
it. He was
whole
like, "Wow,
thing,
this
yeah.
is like a perfectly round fucking placenta."
yeah, that's why the baby was so happy in there. The nurse kept telling me, "Oh, the baby's happy in there.
Yeah.
He's doing good. He's doing beautifully. He's really happy." I guess that's why it was a good placenta
Yep.
to be in there.
And he was born on October 16th at 6:05 a.m., weighing in at 8 pounds, hashtag Mamba weight, and 21 inches long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess the nurse was like, "How
How much do you think you weigh?
think?" Yeah, and I was like 8 pounds.
Nice. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, 8 pounds exactly.
What else? Like, I remember they put like this tiny little tube down his throat to like try to decongest him.
Yeah, and I
So that
kept
was, like,
telling
a little
Tony
scary.
to take pictures because I thought he wasn't taking any
Yeah, I was taking
pictures.
like mad pictures, and
But I didn't see you taking
and my
pictures.
wife is like, no te duema, take pictures. And she told me like 100 times. And
But
I'm
I
like,
didn't see you with the phone now. I'm like, yo, what is this dude doing?
I still
Like,
have to
take
send them to you, by the way.
pictures because, hello, this is not going to happen again. You need to take pictures. But I guess he took pictures. I don't know when, but maybe when I had my eyes closed. I don't know.
Probably.
Or when I was pushing, I guess. I don't know.
And then, because I am trying, like, I did definitely take pictures. But I'm also trying to, because they tell you, like, not to record and, like, stuff like that, like, while they're doing, like, procedures and stuff. So I was trying to, like, balance that. But, yeah, that was...
And then they
Grayson's
were
entrance
gonna
into
sew
the
me
room.
up, but I was like, please use lidocaine, like numb me
Oh, yeah.
before, because of the first pregnancy. You learn,
True.
live and learn.
So that's another, like, pro tip.
Yeah, just tell them to numb you up.
Before they start, like
Yeah, and they told me to hit the epidural thing.
yeah, the button.
Yeah, the button.
But what is it called when they start, like, sewing you up? Like, your vagina or whatever? To, like,
When you tear.
Yeah.
'cause
But
you
what is
usually
it? Stitches, right? They put?
Yeah, they put stitches, and that hurts
Fuck.
like a mother. So after you're having a baby, and your cooch is all retarded and ripped, they tell you, oh my god, then they have to like sew you up because, you know. TMI.
Stitch you back to normal.
Yeah, they try. I guess I don't know. They do it like, you know, you feel everything, so they just make sure that I told them, please numb me up, please.
Yeah.
And the doctor was pretty good. He was good.
Yeah, it was a guy this time. The first time
Yeah,
it was a
I was like,
lady.
I don't know how I feel about a guy, but whatever.
But it
He
went
was
well.
really good. Yeah, and I didn't feel anything. And what is it, postpartum? Like I recovered really well. I didn't. Yeah, like I'm 3 weeks out, and I don't feel any pain. No stitchings. I don't feel the stitches or anything. It was pretty good. Like right away.
Nice.
So kudos to Dr. Behar.
Yeah, Dr. Behar, NYU.
NYU Langone. Kudos to nurse Iris, right?
Yeah, Iris and Antoinette,
Ellie,
and Ellie, like
nurse
all of them.
Ellie,
Such a dope staff.
Antoinette, Scarlett, nurse
Yeah.
Scarlett.
They were all like warm and helpful and attentive.
They were so good. Like I really like that. I love that hospital because they were so good to me, and all the nurses were so nice, and the doctors too. Like
Yeah.
I don't have anything bad to say
No regrets at
about
all.
the staff at all.
Now, we had three major scares. The first one was while we were in the hospital with Grayson, and Antoinette had him at that point. To me, at least, it was like a big scare. We had the baby. We moved
To a room.
to a room. Antoinette was carrying him. Because of the whole amniotic fluid thing, like he had like that built up fluid, he started like choking on it. And you could see, and she was great because I could tell that she was concerned after a certain point, but she didn't like show it enough to like scare us. But she was like carrying the baby and like tapping him on the back because he started like coughing up, but then like couldn't breathe a little bit, and she kept on and like hitting him on the back and like clearing him up with the little blue bombita thing, like sucking out like fluid from his nose and his mouth. And she just kept on, and then she was like, "Come on, what's wrong? Come on!" And then, like, eventually she like cleared his like airways, and it was pretty much that, like the amniotic fluid that he had like built up, and like he turned red, and it was scary as shit.
Well, for me, it wasn't. I just thought that it was like
regular, right?
Yeah, just the
It didn't
baby
seem
was
like a
congested.
big deal.
And
But to me, maybe it was like where we were sitting. Like you were a little further away, I was a little closer to her, and I was like sitting up. I don't know, but like,
or maybe you could see the baby like getting.
I saw him getting red, and I saw her. Like I kept watching, trying to read like her body language and shit, and she was kind of like more and more concerned. Like I felt, but it could also be me like projecting and being paranoid or whatever. But then that leads me to the second scare, which was when we were discharged. We were home. We did the inaugural drive, the same thing that I did with Aiden, and I played Will Smith's "Just the Two of Us" in the car ride all the way home. And because since that song came out, that's literally something I always picture doing with my kids, like bringing them home. I did that with Aiden, did the same thing with Grayson. So we're home.
And the thing with COVID is that we only had 24 hours in the hospital, and we had to leave.
Yeah. Well, we didn't have to, but they said that.
Yeah, we didn't have to leave, but they let you go home after
they
24
you
hours
instead of 48 hours.
Yeah, they want to check on the baby for 24 hours at least, and then you're allowed to go home after that.
Stay close.
So we only had, and I was like, it's too soon. Like, I need more time in the hospital. I feel safer.
And we even extended it a little bit. Like, we stayed a little longer.
We stayed a little. Yeah, we're gonna get discharged the next day, pretty much.
Like
right?
at 10 in the morning.
We just had one day there, and we're gonna get discharged at 10 in the morning. But we decided to stay a little bit after 3, right?
Yeah.
3 or 4, something like that.
We stayed like half a day more, a little less than half a day.
Yeah.
And
because I wanted to get the breastfeeding consultant, because I was
lactation
consultant to breastfeed the baby. I wanted to try it at least to see if it could happen. So we needed to wait on that and the hearing test for the baby and all that.
Right. Oh yeah, that was another thing. Then Grayson failed his hearing test twice in the hospital, so that was something that was like looming over us and worrying us, and we couldn't retake the test until 10 days after, which has since passed, and we went and he passed with flying colors, thankfully.
Yes.
And like super fast, he passed it in like 30 seconds.
But it was the same thing with the amniotic fluid.
Yeah, exactly.
That it was in his ears.
Yeah.
So that's probably why he failed. It's not necessarily that he didn't hear anything, because they did see activity or whatever.
Exactly. They said that they picked up activity.
Reaction or whatever. How
exactly.
They call it. But he was fussy, and he still had amniotic fluid in his ears.
That's how like clogged up he was everywhere. So then we get home. We have our close family over, our immediate family, and everybody's meeting the baby. Then Soyla's in the room with the baby and trying to breastfeed him. I think I was there, and he started like choking a little bit. And then like I went to go get the little blue thing, but it wasn't like at that point I was just like whatever, just like a little congested. And then you were like, or who
he
you?
was choking.
Yeah. He started choking. Like he literally turned beet red, like his entire body.
No, he turned blue. Really.
And he started turning like purple or blue or whatever. And we're there like hitting him on the back.
And they can't breathe. It was scary.
It's fucking scary as shit. And I'm like using the pompita thing to like unclog his nose, sticking it in his mouth, sucking shit out, banging him on the back of on his back. Like thankfully and like weirdly enough, we saw a video that I remember I forwarded you on Facebook of that cop that like saved this infant that was in the mall choking. And that kind of was like in the back of my head floating somewhere, and the cop was like hitting the baby in the back for like 3 minutes straight. And you know, it finally dislodged, thankfully, and the baby started breathing again. So I kind of have that in the back of my head. I had the what Antoinette was doing when that happened the first time, like in the back of my head, and I saw how she was just like sucking everything out of his nose and his mouth, and like hitting him in the back. And like thankfully we did those things, continued doing those things,
and then he started getting his color back.
He started breathing, getting his color back, but I was just like, after that, like.
It was just scary, because we don't know if he was choking or what.
Yeah.
That's it.
Then, the third and biggest scare was after all that night, our first night home, you started getting cold again, and you told me that you weren't feeling well, and I
started getting the chills, the cold chills, and. Like, starting feeling the same thing that I was feeling in the hospital, which was probably that.
True.
Maybe, I don't know. But it was, like, really cold, and the AC was on, and I had just put the baby, like, pajamas on, and put the suaro. I was like, okay, so I'm ready to go to sleep. I had just, like, tried breastfeeding him the best I could. I was just learning. But then I started getting really cold. And I started feeling like when you're going to get a cold, like my body was hurting. I felt like I was getting a fever. And I was like, oh my God, like I hope it's not that I'm getting COVID or anything like that. Because that would be the, like really? Imagine like having a newborn and having to quarantine. Like, what do you do in that case? And me having our 2-year-old son next to me and the newborn. Like, what do you do? Oh, well, my sisters were here, and, you know, my brother-in-law was here. And my husband, of course, was here, but, like, what do you do in that case?
Yeah.
Like, you don't know what to do.
Yeah, like we were talking, like, what if you don't have, like, anybody? Like, if you're a single mom and you have kids and you get sick like that.
That's insane.
Like, what the fuck do they do? Like, do you literally have to entrust, like, a neighbor or somebody that might be willing to take the kid?
I don't know. But thank God that we have a lot of family and everybody was, available to help. And
from my brother David and sister-in-law Janet to your sisters, Judy and JC and Raul and my parents. Thankfully, we have
everybody was available to help and willing to help. And
because what happened was after you started feeling like the chills and stuff like that, you told me you weren't feeling well, and I touched you and you felt warm, and I was like, oh shit. And they tell us in the hospital, if you have a fever,
before you get discharged, they tell you all these things, like if you feel like if you're bleeding more than usual, if you feel fever, or you are the baby, just and different things, like different symptoms that you could feel, or pain or whatever. You just make sure that you call us and let us know.
Exactly. So it's part of the discharge paperwork, and the fever, if it's 100.4 or higher for you or the baby, then we were told to either go to an emergency room or call a hospital right away. I took your temperature with the thermometer, and it was 101.8 or 101.6, something like that. It was nearing.
But the thing is, it wasn't a reliable thermometer. It's like one of those cheap whatever.
Yeah, like a
because we didn't really have one.
Like a rinky-dinky thermometer. We have
Yeah.
thermometers for the kids, but not really like for us. And it was like one of those that you just put under the tongue. So we didn't know like how reliable it was. But still it was scary because again, the number they tell you to call or go to the emergency room is 100.4. So this is almost 2 points higher. It's like almost 102. And we immediately called 911, called an ambulance, and then we also called the hospital, and they left a message for
whoever was the on-call doctor.
on-call doctor. The ambulance comes. I'm hoping like when they come that they're able to like take your temperature and verify what the temperature is. And they don't carry thermometers.
They said like we don't take temperatures. We just take the temperature with your thermometer.
Yeah, wait, hold on. Before we even get to that, what threw me the fuck off is first of all, it's a thermometer. It seems like fucking EMT 101 or something like that. Like they should carry that, especially during like COVID times.
Yeah,
even,
I
like,
don't know.
When you go to
You would think.
when you go to fucking Shake Shack, like they take your temperature.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like something.
Like when Tony called 911, I was like, don't call 911 because what they're gonna do? Send a thing, and then they're gonna take me to Jamaica Hospital, which I don't want to go there.
Yeah, it's like the hood hospital here. For those of you
it's
listening.
like like whatever. They're not gonna know my history. They're not gonna know anything, and that's the closest hospital.
Yeah.
Here,
but
whatever. I was too sick. I didn't care. I was like, whatever. I didn't want to get up when the two EMTs got here, and he was like, "Can you sit up, talk to us?" It's like, okay.
So we're explaining to them that you just had the baby and like stuff like that. You know, we're going through everything, and they retake the temperature with our thermometer because they don't have one again. The fuck. And it is high. It's like 101 point.
Yeah,
the same
and
thing.
he told us to take the baby out because the baby was in the bassinet.
Yeah, out of the
to
room
take the
just in
babies
case
out.
it's something contagious.
Just in case it's COVID or whatever.
And then they told us, they can't take us to NYU to the hospital because that's too far. It's in a different borough. They could take us to
because we live in Queens and
exactly. So they could take us
in Manhattan.
They could take us to either Long Island Jewish, which is a decent hospital here in Forest Hills, or to Jamaica Hospital, which again
or Forest Hills.
That's the LAJ. Or to Jamaica Hospital, which again is the hood hospital here that you go in for, take out your tonsils and you come out with a sex change type shit. And then there, the on-call doctor finally called back,
which is it's a perfectly fine hospital. That's the only one you have there. But
yeah, but if you have a choice, don't go there.
No. I definitely didn't want to go to Jamaica Hospital.
Especially we want our goal was to get back to NYU because they knew everything that she would just discharge in the morning. They have all her records, all her information, and stuff like that.
Like that afternoon, I was discharged, and this was like 9:00 at night, and I started feeling sick, and then we called the EMT. So many things happened so fast.
Yeah. The on-call doctor called, spoke to Soila, and she recommended go to the hospital.
She's like, if you could come here to NYU, come. If you can't, then go to LIJ or whatever hospital but you need to be seen, because we don't know what's going on until you come be seen.
Exactly. And then we made the decision to let the EMTs go, and thankfully, because Soila's sister was here, we asked her to just drive Soila to NYU in the city. So I stayed with the baby. Soila's other sister stayed with Aiden, like in the other room, and Raul stayed here also. And nothing. Judy, your older sister, took you to the emergency room in NYU. So at least you were again in the same hospital we had come from.
Mm-hmm.
They admitted you.
And they were waiting for me because the on-call doctor told them.
They started like the triage or whatever. Then
and they took my temperature. It was high. It was 101.9 or something. It was higher. But I took Tylenol at 9:00, so I was feeling better.
It was just like masking the pain.
Yeah, I was masking the fever. I still had a fever, but I was feeling better, at least to go to the hospital.
Then you finally, you go through all the stuff in ER. Like, what are you feeling at that time?
I wasn't feeling anything. I was feeling good. But I know that I had the fever still.
But in terms of like being worried and like scared and like stuff like that, like
I definitely thought that it was COVID because I still didn't know that it was COVID or not. I didn't know. They took a EKG like right when I walked in. They took my temperature. And the EKG, the lady was like, oh, we're going to give it to the doctor, so we don't know what's going on. And I hadn't gotten tested yet for COVID there. So they took me in, and you see all these people. They put like this mask, like this thing on my face, so I won't get COVID, I guess. I don't know. Or
give it to anybody.
Or give it to anybody. But it was pretty quiet. It wasn't that bad. The emergency room wasn't bad. So me and my sister went in. They took me to the back in a wheelchair, and they put me in a bed. And we just waited for the doctor to come see me. And I told him what happened, that I was discharged and I had just had the baby. And they said, okay, so we have to do an ultrasound to see if maybe they left something inside you, or maybe something of the placenta was left.
Because that could cause like infections.
Yeah,
and stuff.
And maybe that's why you have a fever or whatever. And I had to wait for that. Then they took me to do the ultrasound, and they were gonna do a vaginal ultrasound. I was like, excuse me? No, because I'm all stitched up and there's no way. Like, no. And she's like, oh, you don't have to do it. We just, if you decline, we won't do it. I was like, hell no, I'm not going to do that. Excuse me. I don't want any more trauma down there.
Because they could still do the regular
Yeah,
ultrasound.
they did the regular one, but whatever.
And that was negative, so they didn't find anything.
Yeah, they didn't find anything. And they kept asking me if I had problems with fibroids before, and I have never had any issues. Thankfully, anything. No fibroids or no anything. But they kept asking me that. Everybody. I don't know. Maybe they saw something going.
Or maybe that was like their leading, I guess, opinion of what was going on.
And they did a urine test, and they said that it might be a UTI that I had. And then they needed to do another test, so I had to pee again in the cup or whatever, and they sent it off. So we were just waiting, and the doctor came back, and he said that they were going to admit me to give me antibiotics, that it might be
bacterial infection.
Yeah, in the uterus. So they needed to start me on antibiotics. So they gave me the first antibiotics there in the ER. In the emergency room, yeah, which is awesome. And that's how they started the antibiotics.
And then at that point, that was like a couple hours later after you left here.
Yeah.
So they told like Julie to come home, and they admitted you into the hospital, basically.
Yeah. So they took me up to like a private room, which was good. I was so freezing. Then I was freezing again after I was feeling okay. Then I started freezing again, and it was so horrible. I couldn't like walk, or I couldn't stand up or anything from the wheelchair, and I looked pale. It was scary. And I just wanted to sleep. That's all I wanted to do, because I felt weak. So no, the nurse just laid me down, and I was able to sleep a little bit. And then they started me off in antibiotics. So they were saying that it probably is they were pretty much giving me okay, it could be a UTI, it could be this, it could be that.
But they couldn't like pinpoint it.
They couldn't really know what was going on.
But the plan from their perspective was give you a round of antibiotics, then take you off the antibiotics after like 24 hours, see if the fever goes away. And if it does, then, they beat the infection, and, they'll continue running tests like they did. They did a sonogram of your legs to make sure it wasn't a blood clot. Yeah. They did blood work. They did urine samples, cultures, chest of the X-ray of the chest.
X-ray of the chest, yeah.
Like a whole gamut of stuff, and everything came back negative. They did like multiple COVID tests. That was all negative, and they couldn't pinpoint it past they told us
it's more likely to be
like a bacterial infection, uterus infection, something like that. But that it's one of those things that they might not be able to like exactly pinpoint what it was. But long story short, like it was a scary few days. You were in the hospital for 5 days, and after that first round of antibiotics, the next day they take you off to monitor you, and the fever comes right back. So it's like, oh fuck. Then they put you on antibiotics again.
And I kept having those chills, like that same pattern. having the chills, then having the fever, and then they put me back on antibiotics, which was like crazy because I spent like the whole time that I was there on antibiotics,
like back to back on IV drips
crazy.
of antibiotics.
It's crazy. I had the smell of medicine,
and like multiple different types. You told me, right?
Yeah.
And I told you, like, from my perspective, being here at home with the newborn, with the 2-year-old, even though we have obviously the family and support system, which I told you, like, I don't know what I would have done without them, like, during this time. Like, it was scary as fuck. Because, like, me, I'm, like, the prepare for the worst, hope for the best type of person. I'm thinking of every scenario in my mind. I'm like, what if she doesn't come back? What if something happens? What do I tell Aiden when he says, "Where's mommy?" And I was fucking scared. Like, I literally dropped to my knees. I prayed. I cried. Trying to keep it together, which thankfully, again, everybody, our support system, like, helped me be able to do that. But it was scary hearing, like, you're feeling better, then the fever came back and you're feeling worse. You're feeling better, then the fever came back and you're feeling worse. And it was like a roller coaster.
It's hard, like, giving that news too, and like feeling it.
I can imagine from your point. From your point, it has to be like exponentially worse.
Yeah.
Because you had to like leave your babies, and like leave here, and you are the one going through it.
That was the toughest thing, I think. Like having to, like, because you're thinking that the worst thing is gonna be like, oh, you're not gonna be able to sleep because you have a newborn, yeah. And no, you just have to leave them.
It's like that times 10. 100.
It's like crazy. You have to leave them, and I left my phone here. Like, out of all the craziness, I left my phone, so I didn't even have contact with you guys until the next day when my sister took the phone.
JC took
to
it,
the
right?
hospital, yeah, with my brother-in-law.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay. So I told the nurse, "Can you call my husband and tell him that I'm okay, and that I'm in room whatever, and if you could give him the phone number here." Just to have contact with you guys.
Yeah.
Because I didn't even notice that I left my phone. There's so many things.
Yeah. I was texting you and like trying to let you rest, but let you go through it. And I was like, Yeah. Then there was a point where, like, I think I was after the second or the beginning of the third day, like that they were going to keep you again. That, I spoke with your sisters. They stayed with the kids, and I went to the hospital to like stay with you. And like take you food and comfort food and just be with you.
Yeah, because the hospital food sucks.
Yeah.
And like I had nothing. Let's say they just give you like 3 meals a day, right? Like prison.
Like prison.
And they give you the last meal at 5:00. And if you eat everything, what are you gonna do? At 9:00, if you're hungry, you're screwed. So I kept telling the nurse, "Oh, bring me ginger ales and apple juice or whatever," and I used to put it away, like
nice,
like a hoarder, to survive at night. It was funny.
And then I went one day, like I stayed with you for like the 24 hour. For
like after I got the second, like they told me since I got a fever again, and I had to stay another day. I went to get more antibiotics, and then they were going to take me off and do that whole process again. So I told Tony, "No, you got to come and bring me food because I can't anymore, and I need junk food." And I was going through withdrawals. No junk food, no nothing. I was like, "No, you need to come because I need to see somebody from my family anyways." Like, I was feeling lonely. And, and you said, "Oh, I'm going to take you food." I was like, "Yes."
Yeah. And I went to like one of your favorite pizzerias, which happened to be around there because when you.
That was the next day.
Was it?
Yeah.
The Rockies?
You took me the comfort food, the food that Judy cooked, and then the next day you took me pizza.
The food that Judy cooked was like the last thing I took you on the last day. Remember when I went and I came back home?
Oh yeah. So that day you took me pizza.
But I took you pizza and like junk food and shit, like chips and stuff like that.
I was like, bring me something, like anything.
Yeah.
But then, and
we spent a couple more days in the hospital. I spent that one night with you.
5 days more.
Then I came back to like give some relief to like
5 days in total. I was admitted for 5 days. But then they told me, okay, so what we're gonna do is we're not gonna wait. We're just gonna send you home with
but hold on. Before you get to that, a good sign was, I guess, even though the fever kept coming back, each time it took you off the antibiotics, it came back, but not as high as that initial, like 101.9 or whatever. Like, so when it came back,
it's getting better, the infection or whatever.
Exactly. Gotta get closer.
That the infection was getting better, so that was a good sign.
Yeah. So then the game plan from the doctor's perspective was, if now after this, I guess like the third cycle of the IV drip of antibiotics, if the fever doesn't come back after that, then we are going to send you home with oral antibiotics for a week. And then by then, that should solve it.
Should be good. Yeah. I was like, whatever, I'll do anything. I just
I just want to get out
home.
of this place.
I want to see my babies and I want to be home. Like I don't want to be in the hospital anymore. Even though I was getting good naps, I was getting a lot of sleep.
I actually got some sleep when I slept over there.
Yeah.
Because I obviously wasn't
down.
sleeping at home.
Yeah.
Like worried about you and also dealing with the newborn and waiting.
So, but I didn't care. I just wanted to come home and see the babies.
Yeah, of course. And thankfully, it's been almost a month since, right?
Yeah,
1 more week.
3 weeks.
It's been 3 weeks. You're good. Grayson's good.
Yeah, no sleep, but that's the normal thing that I was expecting.
Yeah, exactly.
Not that
like we're prepared for the no sleep part, but not for like all this other crazy
like being
shit.
super tired and the regular newborn things.
And Grayson's really fussy. Doesn't sleep at night. He keeps eating up. So then he gets fussy. So we had to like separate the two. And
now I stay in the living room with the baby while we take turns.
Yeah.
And so that way Aiden doesn't get.
So at least he has like a sense of like normalcy a little bit.
Yeah.
And hopefully
he's happy I'm home.
Yeah, absolutely. Like he was really happy.
Yeah.
And he was asking for you like crazy. Where's mommy?
But that was the first time that I got, I ever slept apart from him.
Yeah.
First time, and then
like
it was
2
like
years.
a hell of a time, like freaking 7 days.
Yeah.
After that, so. But we're good, thankfully. No
Absolutely.
issues.
Glad you're happy, healthy, and thank you for going through what you went through for all of us.
Thank you.
Hopefully Grayson and Aiden will look back on this in the future and be that much more thankful.
We survived.
See what your mommy did for you, you fucks? You better act good. Act right.
Yeah.
Behave.
When they say, I got a paper cut, and I was like, well, you were 8 pounds. When I had you. So you're okay.
All right, babe. Thanks for doing this.
All right, babe.
And that's the episode, folks. Some crazy shit, right? Well, I'm glad we're past it. I'm glad everyone is doing well and healthy. I hope that you folks listening were able to take something from it. If not, just, listening in on the experience and what we went through. Maybe you are in the process of having a kid, or maybe you went through something similar and you wanted to see what the experience was like for someone else. But you have some pro tips in there, from the baby sock that I mentioned in the intro to getting like propped up before having the balloon inserted, to always having one of those like blue bulb sucking things handy to help unclog a baby that doesn't know how to do it themselves. And I just appreciate you guys listening. I like doing these episodes because of the fact that I want to give my kids the ability to be able to look back and get a real, like, almost first-hand experience to what things were like before they were like paying attention to things or able to pay attention to things. Like, how was it when I was born? Like, both my kids will now be able to like relive it through their parents' eyes and see where our heads were at with everything that was going on. And even selfishly, just for nostalgic reasons, for me, to be able to like listen back on, years in the future. I know it's something that I would listen to in a heartbeat if it were available from like my parents' times. And if you folks listening get something out of it, then it's obviously all the better. Now, the last thing that I'll leave you all with is the fact that I decided to cut out using like outro transition music between ending the show and the outro that I normally do. And even though it's something that I always like to do, and I always liked the like mini challenge of trying to find music that kind of sort of related to something that was referenced in the show and give you all the opportunity to like vibe out with something that I was vibing out to. But, being that I follow the podcast landscape fairly closely, I'm noticing certain moves being made, like by Spotify, for example, that is now allowing certain podcasts to play music and have kind of sort of like morning show, traditional radio morning show style shows, but a podcast version of it. And the plays of the music within those podcasts actually count as streams toward the artist whose song it is, which makes absolute sense to me. But you have to have that specific type of show in order to be able to do that. And everyone else, still is under the rules of copyright infringement, for example. And, that's always been the case. You're not really supposed to play, music on a podcast, even if it's, but for fear of, people just like pirating music, which is clearly not what I do with the show. But even when you play like snippets, you get flagged by certain platforms like YouTube. Whenever like I play a song, like my entire show will be flagged by YouTube for a copyright strike, which means that I would never be able to like monetize the episode, which is not something that I'm worried about, being that the podcast is still somewhat of a smaller, or has rather somewhat of a smaller reaching audience, where like the monetization and the making the money off the podcast is not like a main driver for the show at all. Maybe one day it'll have like a much larger reach, which is obviously the goal. But then when and if it does, having this back catalog of episodes with music on them, even if it's like snippets of music, will cause like a ripple effect issue, such as being, having a full show, like every single episode taken off of certain platforms, not just like copyright strikes and stuff like that. Because like with the whole YouTube thing, you can fix that by going back to each and every one individual episode and just like bleeping out the music pieces. But if a platform like Spotify or whoever you host your show with, like for example, I use Libsyn, decides to, shut your show off for whatever reason, due to, copyright infringement concerns or something like that, that would be something that's out of my power. So to avoid all that, I say all that very long-winded explanation to say that I'm not going to be dropping music anymore at the end of the episodes moving forward. So I hope you guys don't miss it too much. But I did record a brand new outro for you guys to listen to with some new and interesting ways you can help support this show. So without further ado, here's that outro, and I appreciate you guys listening. Peace. Hey folks, Tony here. If you're enjoying the show, do me a favor. Rate and review it on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever it is that you listen to your podcasts. If you'd like to help out the show in other ways, I'll give you a one-stop shop of sorts to do so. Go to spuntoday.com/support. That's where you'll find a ton of different ways to help support this show, such as shopping on Amazon. If you do any shopping on Amazon, like most of the world, I ask that you do so by clicking on any of the Amazon banners on my website. This will take you to Amazon, where you can do your shopping like you normally do. It will not cost you anything extra, but I will get credit for driving traffic to their website. Speaking of Amazon, they fulfill a bunch of the merch that I have available. If you go to spuntoday.com/support, you're going to find a brand new merch section where you'll find the iconic Podcasts vs. Anybody super soft premium cotton t-shirt. You'll also find the legendary Spun Today Podcast tee, which is in the style of the New York City plastic thank you bags logo. For my fellow Dominicans out there, I have a dope Dominican Escudo t-shirt. You know where the Lacoste or Polo shirts have their little logo? Picture that, but instead a Dominican Escudo. All available now in a variety of different colors for men and women in all sizes. In the Spun Today merch section, which again is at spuntoday.com/support, you'll also find a bunch of other t-shirt designs, long sleeve t-shirts, short sleeve t-shirts, color changing coffee mugs, and much, much more. Check out all the merch at spuntoday.com/support. All of my short stories can be found at spuntoday.com/short stories. The free writing pieces that I read, share, and review during the free writing session episodes of this show can be found at spuntoday.com/free writing. There you can read all the pieces that made the podcast, as well as tons and tons of others. My books are available in any digital format of your choice, whether it's Kindle, Apple's iBooks, Kobo, you name it. They're also available in paperback. You can check them out at spuntoday.com/books. My debut novel, FRACTAL, is a sci-fi time travel story of a group of righteous travelers that attempt to right the wrongs of the injustices of the past. My nonfiction, Make Way for You, is a collection of tips for getting out of your own way. So if you need some motivation, inspiration, and a good old-fashioned kick in the ass, that'll be the read for you. Again, go to spuntoday.com/books or search for those titles on Amazon. Another great and free way that you can help support this show is by subscribing to my newsletter by going to spuntoday.com/subscribe. You'll get a photo, podcast, video, quote, and word of the week every single Monday at noon. What else do you have to look forward to on a Monday? Plus, you'll be the first to know whenever I publish a new book. And if for whatever reason you choose to, you can unsubscribe at any time. Go to spuntoday.com/subscribe, drop in your email address, and you'll get the very next one. At spuntoday.com/support, you'll also find links to my Patreon, Ko-fi, and PayPal donation pages. Patreon and Ko-fi allow you to make recurring donations per episode, and you even get some bonus content for doing so. PayPal allows you to make a one-time donation to the show. For my fellow writers and creatives out there, a really cool way for you to be featured on this show is to respond to my 5-question Spun Today questionnaire. I'll read your responses on a future episode of the show and share them with the Spun Today community. Think about it. If your responses could potentially spark inspiration in someone else, why not share that? To do so, go to spuntoday.com/questionnaire. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Spun Today on both those platforms. Check out and like the Spun Today Facebook page at facebook.com/Spun Today. I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to the Spun Today YouTube page. Just search for Spun Today on YouTube or click on any of the YouTube icons on my website. There, you'll not only get the full versions of this podcast, but you'll also get bonus content like shortened episode clips and much, much more. And as always, folks, substitute the mysticism with hard work and start taking steps in the general direction of your dreams. Thanks for listening. I love you, Aiden.
I love you, Daddy.